Harvest is a national network of food banks dedicated to feeding hungry Americans. But it needs your support. So please, contact the Second Harvest member near you. After all, isn't America one place where no one should live in hunger?
UNTVH, be a part of it all.
Mikhail Gorbachev this morning. A new vision for the Soviets, a new challenge to the U.S.
An American in Israel charged with horrors in the Holocaust.
Budget cuts bring new worries to those in need of organ transplants.
And our look at President's Day through the checkbook of Abe Lincoln.
To Abraham Lincoln, Super Saver.
This is the CBS Morning News. Good morning, I'm Forrest Sawyer.
And I'm Faith Daniels. It's Monday, February 16th.
Topping the news this morning, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev is calling for an international treaty to ban space weapons. Gorbachev took center stage today at a Moscow peace forum to charge that President Reagan is trying to scrap the ABM treaty. Gorbachev says the United States wants to read that treaty in such a way as to allow testing of Star Wars. We have more on the Gorbachev speech from Wyatt Andrews in Moscow.
Gorbachev came to this international peace forum with no new arms control initiatives, calling instead for the Reagan administration to answer Soviet proposals from Reykjavik.
It was not a failure, but a breakthrough. This was not yet one more set of negotiations. It was a moment of truth, when everyone saw the great prospect of emerging on the road to a nuclear-free world.
The Soviet leader proposed that worldwide pressure be brought to discourage the United States from deploying Star Wars. He called for an international treaty to stop deployment. But at his most interesting, Gorbachev defended the Soviet process of openness. He answered skeptics who say the Soviet Union is changing to please the world.
I must disappoint those who assume that this is a result, that this position is a result of pressure upon us from the West, that we want to please someone, that we are pursuing some hidden motives. No, this too is a result of the new thinking.
Several times during his speech, Gorbachev seemed to be attempting a new style of eloquence to describe why he wants a nuclear-free world. If nuclear weapons aren't abolished, he said at one point, there won't be a tree stump, much less a table, over which to negotiate peace. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Moscow.
The United States, of course, has more than just a routine interest in what Mr. Gorbachev had to say. Standing by at the State Department is Bill McLaughlin. Bill, good morning.
Good morning.
Bill, everyone was looking at this speech to bring forth major developments, big news. We didn't get it. What do you make of that?
Well, so far we haven't yet seen here a full text of the Gorbachev speech, but assuming there's nothing new in it, it would be a big disappointment to foreign policy experts within the Reagan administration. After all, Deputy Foreign Minister Yuri Vorontsov left the arms control talks in Geneva, telling associates there and Americans there that he was going back to work on an important speech that would contain new ideas. Perhaps what's happened, we have to remember that Gorbachev faces an awful lot of internal criticism and a lot of opponents back home. He's made domestic policy and not relations with the U.S. his priority. So perhaps Gorbachev has had to give up something on the foreign policy end in order to get somewhere in his domestic reforms, which are more important for him, again, than relations with the U.S.
Bill, Mr. Gorbachev denounced the U.S. for wanting a broad interpretation of the 1972 ABM treaty. Why does the administration feel that its reading of the treaty is the correct one?
It depends on who you talk to within the administration. Most of the foreign policy crowd in this town, at the State Department, for example, and some people at the NSC, believe the limited interpretation is the correct one. Those, President Reagan's right wing and the president himself, I'm told, believe in the broad interpretation because that would allow them to carry out Star Wars testing. This battle is going to be fought in Congress. It was the Senate, after all, which approved the ABM treaty, and it is the Senate which is going to do battle with the president on this issue.
All right, Bill McLaughlin, live at the State Department. Thank you for joining us this morning. Yosef Begun's family said in Moscow today that the Jewish dissident is still in prison. Soviet official Georgy Orbatov announced on the CBS News broadcast Face the Nation that Begun had been released, but Begun's son quotes Soviet prison officials as saying they have no orders to free Begun.
There is a report this morning that says computers may play a role in unraveling the Iran-Contra arms affair. Newsweek magazine reports that Oliver North kept his superiors completely up to date on the deal by sending them computerized messages, and those messages have apparently been recovered. It appears that Chief of Staff Donald Regan, former CIA Chief William Casey, and former National Security Advisor John Poindexter knew more about the money shuffle than they have admitted. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir arrived in New York this morning. This the first visit to the U.S. by an Israeli leader since the Iran arms affair, and Israel's role as a middleman became known. Shamir says Israel has nothing to be ashamed of and hopes to concentrate on other issues during his 9-day visit.
In London this morning, more questions but few answers about hostages in Lebanon. Lebanese President Amin Gemayel met with Prime Minister Thatcher, and he apparently assured her that he's doing everything he can to track down missing Church of England negotiator Terry Waite. Gemayel also says he does not know where Waite is. In Lebanon, Druze leader Walid Jambat says that Waite is being held by the pro-Iranian Hezbollah movement. In Jerusalem this morning, there was extremely tight security as John Demjanjuk went on trial for war crimes. The trial is being held in a converted theater so that hundreds of journalists can watch. As Bob Simon reports, this is more than a trial. It's also a history lesson.
A retired auto worker from Ohio this morning became the second man in a quarter of a century to be tried by Israel for war crimes. Unlike Adolf Eichmann, there was no glass cage for John Demjanjuk, just a Formica box in a Jerusalem movie theater converted by the government into a courthouse. Arriving this morning, he shouted "Good morning" in Hebrew and "Hello, Cleveland" in English. Like Eichmann, if Demjanjuk is found guilty, he could face the death penalty. Demjanjuk is accused of being Ivan the Terrible, the notorious guard at Treblinka who tortured his victims before he gassed them. More than 900,000 people died at Treblinka. The defense, led by Buffalo lawyer Mark O'Connor, does not deny that Ivan the Terrible committed those crimes. It denies that Demjanjuk is Ivan. It is, the defense insists, a case of mistaken identity.
We certainly know there is no evidence relating to the name Demjanjuk, and no direct evidence except the nickname Ivan the Terrible, Tsar of Russia, Ivan Grozny, relating to the man. You cut to the heart of the matter, Justice Donner.
The prosecution will produce witness after witness to identify Demjanjuk and speak of what he did. The trial is expected to last between 4 and 6 months. It's being carried live by Israeli radio. The purpose, according to Israeli officials, is not only justice but education, to remind a new generation of what happened during the Holocaust, while there are still murderers and victims who can speak. Bob Simon, CBS News, Jerusalem.
Wall Street is facing its own trials over insider trading. The market is closed today, but the street is nonetheless worried about the growing scandal. Ken Prewitt is here now with details. Ken?
Faith, it isn't over yet. According to 2 top officials in the insider trading case, U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani said over the weekend more cases are developing. John Shadd of the Securities and Exchange Commission said there are more shoes to drop. Now, the next scheduled development is the sentencing of former Drexel Burnham investment banker Dennis Levine day after tomorrow. It's expected that prosecutors will then outline the extent of Levine's cooperation. The American markets are closed for President's Day. In London this morning, gold is down 60 cents an ounce at $397.20. Silver is up a penny at $5.46. The American dollar is lower overseas this morning. Daniel Oliver, the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, has told a consumer group that limits on foreign trade cost Americans $50 billion a year. In the automobile industry, for example, Oliver said protectionism costs consumers $200,000 for every job in the auto industry that's saved. So far, the slumping American dollar has not had an impact on the trade deficit. There are increasing calls in Congress to restrict imports to save jobs.
Thanks, Ken. Let's have a look at today's weather. Heavy rain and the occasional thunderstorm on the way to the southeast. Up to 3 inches of rain falling by tonight. That could cause street and highway flooding in some areas. Be careful. Snow is the story for western North Carolina and Virginia. Look out for as much as 5 inches there today, and that means it's going to be rough on the road. Elsewhere around the nation, rain predicted for the northwest and southern New Mexico, and it will be a snowy afternoon across the eastern Rockies and northern Great Lakes. Now 9 minutes after the hour.
This is the TV8 Morning News, brought to you by Direct Delivery and Distribution. Here's Todd Nagel.
Good morning. In Des Moines now, partly cloudy skies, 19 degrees. Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden says he's planning to formally announce his candidacy in May. The senator from Delaware says he doesn't have the edge some other presidential contenders have because his Senate duties keep him too busy to do much campaigning, but he says Iowans will be seeing more of him.
I haven't formally announced. I expect to set up an exploratory committee, which is a means by which you can raise money sometime around the 1st of March, and then probably would formally announce sometime in the middle to the end of May.
Biden will make several stops in Des Moines today, including the Civic Center and the Iowa State House. Also today, the eldest son of Vice President George Bush, whose name is also George, will be in Des Moines. He'll announce the formation of the Bush for President Committee in Iowa. Union workers at the Quaker Oats Company in Cedar Rapids will vote today on whether to ratify a new contract and end the first strike against Quaker Oats in 36 years. About 1,000 members of the retail, wholesale, and department store union are expected to vote. The terms of the contract have not been disclosed. The union struck the company last Thursday. What do beavers have to do with weather forecasts? Well, some Iowans fear beaver dam building is a sign the unusually mild winter will be followed by a dry spell. A Coralville real estate agent says a beaver colony is cutting trees near his office. Dick Mead calls it a bad omen. He says in 1933, the same dam building that winter was followed by a severe drought. Mead believes the busy beavers may indicate a lack of water this year, too. A dry forecast is next.
If you're a shipper or business owner, you know how important a long-distance delivery service can be. You need a carrier that's fast, economical, and dependable. That's what direct delivery and distribution is all about. It's the only delivery service in Des Moines that guarantees overnight delivery by truck to and from these Nebraska cities. There's no weight limit, and our prices are competitive or better than other carrier services. For guaranteed overnight delivery, call Direct Delivery and Distribution. Service is our guarantee.
A strong east wind will make today's cold temperature seem even colder. Forecast calls for variable cloudiness with a high in the lower 30s, winds from 10 to 20 miles per hour. Tonight, fair with a low in the teens and winds decreasing. And Tuesday, partly sunny with a high in the lower 30s. Currently in Des Moines, partly cloudy skies, winds from the northeast at 13 miles per hour. Humidity 67%, barometer 30.09 and steady. Currently in Des Moines, it's 19 degrees. Next, news and weather in about 10 minutes.
Is greed the hallmark of the American 80s? It looks like it on Wall Street. And we'll be talking to Father Leonard Freeman of Wall Street's Trinity Episcopal Church.
Commit the crime, you do the time. But what about the families of convicts? We'll meet a woman whose husband is in prison and learn about her punishment.
Plus, Carol Channing and Roy Blunt Jr.
Coming up on the morning program.
See ya.
The city of Rome is attacking its traffic problem head-on. The Eternal City this morning banned cars from downtown. Bert Quint reports that Rome, once famous for its roads, is now better known for monumental traffic jams.
It's hard for Roman drivers to believe, but this time City Hall means it. There have been other attempts to close the city center to traffic. An undermanned police force and an overwhelming flow of cars have made a joke of them. But there are no laughs today. Exhaust fumes have made this one of the world's most polluted cities, with carbon monoxide up to 8 times the danger level. It's got to stop, officials say. As of today, unauthorized vehicles entering the heart of the city between 7 and 10:30 in the morning get towed away. Heavy trucks are banned from 8 to 8. The rush hour ban is to spread throughout the entire downtown area within 3 weeks, with fines going up to more than $80. The number of traffic cops is being doubled to try to make it work. Motorists have reason to complain. Buses are jammed and the subway network is almost non-existent because there are so many archaeological treasures below as well as above the ground. Everyone agrees something has to be done. The problem is that Rome was built for chariots, not Fords or Fiats. Little has been done to change that in all these years, and it can't be done in a few weeks. But as the city fathers put it, we have to stop talking and do something to make Rome livable. If anything, today's restrictions gave Romans even more to talk about. Bert Quint, CBS News, Rome.
Back home, doctors in Michigan could decide the fate today of a young boy from Afghanistan who was wounded by Soviet shrapnel. Zia Ullah, who is staying with foster parents in Michigan, could be sent to a refugee camp in Pakistan if doctors say they have completed their treatment. A social agency fighting that move says Zia's father, an Afghan rebel, may have been killed. And it points out Zia has learned to speak English in just 6 months.
In Virginia, a desperately ill little girl will receive a liver transplant at government expense Thanks to a court ruling, this weekend a federal judge ordered the state Medicaid system to pay for Michelle Todd's transplant. The 4-year-old has liver cancer. Michelle had been denied aid because her ailment is not covered under state rules. Deciding who receives a transplant is a painful and sometimes tragic issue. Donor organs are in short supply, and federal funds are being cut to the national clearinghouse that determines whose need is greatest. As Ned Potter reports, publicity sometimes makes the difference between who lives and who dies.
Jamie Fisk today is a healthy 5-year-old in Massachusetts, but she would have died in 1982 if her parents had not been able to get her the public attention that got her a liver transplant. Alex Gerard died last year. His parents called the media and the White House too, but getting a donor liver took a little too long to save him.
We had slim chances to procure a liver in 7 days, which is what our time frame was.
Cases like that renew the question of who gets that desperately needed donor organ. Will it be the child whose family attracts the most media attention, or will it be the child who needs the organ most immediately?
This computer bank has been set up to solve that problem. It's meant to be a national clearinghouse for available organs.
We have a kidney in New Orleans. We might want to move to Jackson, Mississippi.
But the bank, which got $1.2 million in the current federal budget, is slated to get nothing in fiscal 1988. The administration argues that such a system can and should be self-sustaining.
There really won't be a need for federal money, but it certainly doesn't mean it's going to go away. It'll keep functioning.
The Fisks, watching Jamie grow up, say canceling the network's funding would be a step backward.
It makes it much more difficult for families facing it now. That's what the real tragedy of the whole thing is.
President and Mrs. Reagan have taken a personal interest in the cases of many children who needed transplants, but that does not mean increased expenditure in this time of towering federal deficits.
It was very nice that Mrs. Reagan called us when our son was ill, but the money is needed more and the system is needed more than a phone call.
They have a philosophical view that the government is not going to be given any new responsibility whatsoever while they're in charge.
Precious human organs will surely be transplanted in greater numbers, but the danger exists that they'll go first to families with the wherewithal to grab for them. Ned Potter, CBS News, Bridgewater, Massachusetts.
Arthritis. Yes, you can live with it. With proper exercise, therapy, and medication. With the guidance, care, and education provided by physicians and other professionals at the Arthritis Management Center. We can't cure arthritis. No one can. But we can reduce or eliminate the pain and complications.
For an appointment at our new Tower Medical Clinic, call 271-1700. The University of Osteopathic Medicine and Health Sciences. We're here for your good health.
Merle Hay Mall.
During Deck the Walls Frame Fest 87, save 50% on all framing services. 50% off all matting, dry mounting, needlework, blocking, and stretching. Save 50% on regular and non-glare glass. Deck the Walls makes impressive-looking shadow boxes. Save 50% on all framing services now at Deck the Walls right in the middle of Merle Hay Mall.
Merle Hay Mall.
This week on Our Magazine, it's a special 5-part series exploring tomorrow's medicine.
The new medicine is no longer dividing the world between the mind and the body.
When you become the observer of the pain, you're in control. When you're the victim of the pain, you're out of control.
Really, we're starting to rediscover many things that are thousands of years old.
A prescription for the future. Tomorrow's medicine. This week on Our Magazine.
Our Magazine, afternoons at 3 on TV8.
Let's talk money. The United States savings rate, that's the proportion of income that people save, was down to 1.8% in December. That may be the lowest rate in this century. That's a development that makes our economics correspondent Robert Krulwich think of Abe Lincoln. Now, you see, I would have come up with a lot of things, but Abe Lincoln would not be one of them.
Well, the reason I'm thinking about Lincoln is because, Forrest, even though the man signed the Emancipation Proclamation, wrote the Gettysburg Address, and won the Civil War, what he was really good at was saving money. And that is why this morning on President's Day, the CBS Morning News, this is an exclusive, offers this special salute.
To Abraham Lincoln, super saver.
In 1861, when Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated president, according to this authoritative book, The Personal Finances of Abraham Lincoln by Harry Pratt, Mr. Lincoln was worth $15,000. 4 years later, at his death at Ford's Theater, his estate was worth $85,000. In just 4 years, earning only $25,000 a year, Mr. Lincoln was able to save 70 grand. How did he do that? Well, this is the amazing part, because the man was terrible with money. Every month, he'd get a salary check for $2,022.33. And often he'd just stick it in his desk and forget about it. Most of it he eventually lent to the Treasury Department. He bought some bonds that paid 7.3% interest in gold. So they sent him these little gold bags, which he had to stash around somewhere. Finally, on June 10th, 1864, Abraham Lincoln made this list of all his investments, totaling $54,515.07. And then, according to an assistant Treasury Secretary, he scooped up the money and the paper and a bag of gold worth $883, and carrying all those valuables, he walked out of the White House and went across the street to the Treasury Department with very possibly some of the money stuck inside his famous stovepipe hat. For years, Mr. Lincoln used his hat as a storage compartment to carry letters and cash. Arriving then at the office of the Treasury Secretary, Mr. Salmon Chase, Mr. Lincoln dumped everything on Chase's desk, and according to an eyewitness, it looked like a confused mass of Treasury notes, demand notes, bonds. Mr. Lincoln apparently said, "Do something with this," at which point it was reinvested. In an era when Americans are saving next to nothing, and the Japanese are saving at a rate of 22%, Mr. Lincoln leaves us all in the dust with a savings rate of 50%. Which is why he clearly deserves to be remembered not only as the great emancipator, but also as Abraham Lincoln, super saver. Inspiring, isn't it? I should add that he did not pay any income taxes, and the real secret seems to be that he expensed a lot of things. The man did not pay for lunch, for example. Clever.
How did he get away without paying income tax?
There was an income tax during the Civil War, in fact, and everybody was supposed to pay it, and for a while they withheld. So you see in his paychecks, you see the paychecks go down for a few months, but then the Supreme Court held that sitting presidents of the United States should not suddenly be slapped with an income tax, so they gave him the money back.
For this, of course, he was eternally grateful.
I guess so, yeah. I looked at this one, the man saved a fortune.
All right, thank you, Bob Krulwich. It's now 22 after the hour.
Betz Cadillac presents Buy and Fly. Now you can buy a pre-owned automobile at Betz Cadillac and fly anywhere in the continental United States free. Betz Cadillac has over 80 pre-owned automobiles, GM, Ford, and Chrysler models, imports, plus pre-owned Cadillacs, all marked for this event. Competitive prices, high trade-in allowances, plus now you can fly free. Want to get away from it all? Then buy and fly at Betz Cadillac.
They've arrived from all across the country to compete in the $25,000 Jeopardy Team Tournament.
You excited? Yes, ma'am.
It's an honor just to be here.
Only the best and brightest were chosen.
It's just amazing.
15 stood out from over 3,500 tested.
It was really difficult. So either you know the trivia or you don't.
Share the excitement as America's best compete against each other in the $25,000 Jeopardy Team Tournament.
Be a part of it all on Jeopardy! Afternoons at 5 on TV8.
It began as a simple test to see what hundreds of business people preferred. Long-distance calls made on the fiber optic lines of U.S. Sprint or calls made on AT&T's lines. Over 75% preferred the clarity of U.S. Sprint, and over 90% of them said they'd switch. That's not a test. That's a landslide. Call U.S. Sprint. We're building the first and only 100% fiber optic network clear across America.
Think your cereal is nutritious? Put down your spoon and listen. Because a leading consumer magazine ranked 59 cold cereals on fiber, protein, sugar, sodium, and fat. And of those 59 cereals, they found 3 varieties in Nabisco shredded wheat topped the ratings, providing plenty of fiber and protein, no sugar, and very little sodium or fat. So before you pick up your spoon, pick up the leading cereal that topped the ratings, Nabisco shredded wheat.
Nabisco.
This is the TV8 Morning News. Here's Todd Magel.
Good morning. In Des Moines now, partly cloudy skies, 19 degrees. An elderly Plymouth County couple were killed last night when their car was struck broadside by a semi-trailer truck. The Iowa State Patrol says the car, driven by 81-year-old Lambert Thomas, pulled into the path of the truck just outside Lamar's. Thomas and the passenger, Marie Staber, were killed. The truck driver and the passenger were not injured. For the third week in a row, an Iowa Lotto jackpot winner will pick up the grand prize at lottery headquarters this morning. It was just a few weeks ago that lottery officials announced they were changing the odds of the game by adding 6 more numbers for a total of 36. The plan was to make Lotto harder to win and allow the jackpot to grow much larger. But each week since then, the jackpot prize has been claimed.
It's been kind of unusual since we've gone to this game. We've been hit every weekend, and only once during those draws have we selected one of our new numbers. So, again, it's totally random, and that's the way things are going to happen.
Dorothy Schwartzoff of Lansing is the latest Lotto winner. Once again this week, the jackpot starts from 0. The annual Iowa Beef Expo opens at the Iowa State Fairgrounds today. More than 20,000 people are expected to attend this year's sales and trade show for the state's cattle producers. For the last 5 years, Expo sales have averaged about $1 million. And Expo Director Pat Boyle says this year could be the best yet.
Swinging back up in the cow-calf industry. Things are really looking good. The cows are going higher in the sale barns out around the state. It's kind of started out west and has been moving this way. Everybody's extremely optimistic. The people that have been private treatying bulls are selling them. And we've been telling people, especially the commercial men, that this is the year to get in and get your good bulls early.
Boyle says retailers at the trade show reported good business Sunday, even though the expo actually opens today. A good-looking weather forecast is coming up next.
TV8 News takes you there. TV8's Mary Bach reports a guilty plea on reduced charges by State Senator Al Sturgeon means no trial in his Mingo bachelor party case. TV8's Heartbeat again encourages thousands of Iowans to have cholesterol screenings at their local hospitals and clinics. And TV8's Dana Carton reports the ISU Carillon is hitting a few sour notes. Officials hope to raise $200,000 to fix the landmark. Be a part of it all. News Alive on TV8.
Catch the news alive, TV8. Be a part of it all.
Forecast calls for variable cloudiness with a high in the lower 30s. Tonight, fair with a low in the teens and winds decreasing. Then Tuesday, partly sunny with a high in the 30s. Currently in Des Moines, partly cloudy skies, 19 degrees. Next, weather in about 15 minutes.
Father Leonard Freeman of Wall Street's Trinity Episcopal Church talks about the market's greed.
And we'll learn about the punishment for a wife with a husband in prison.
And meet Carol Channing.
Next in the morning program.
Come join us.
We'll be watching these stories as they develop this Monday. Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev is accusing the United States of trying to scrap the ABM treaty. Israeli Prime Minister Shamir starts his visit to the United States. Shamir says Israel has now been classified by the United States as an official ally. And in Miami today, one of the top Nicaraguan rebel leaders, Adolfo Calero, is expected to resign from a Contra umbrella group after pressure from the United States and other Contra leaders.
Our last word is from Florida, where things got a little out of hand. Seventh graders' classic nutrition experiment didn't go the way it was supposed to. Now, this is the one where one rat gets all that good, wholesome, nutritious food, and one rat eats nothing but pizza and brownies and ice cream. And sure enough, after 5 months, one of the rats died. The problem was it was the one that ate all the wholesome food. Now, Ezra Wise, the boy who conducted the experiment, figures maybe the first rat died of natural causes, even though it seems awfully strange. The lesson? Well, for his own lunches, Ezra is going to be doing lots of healthy food, but he'll mix some little junk food just to be safe.
I like his style. That's the morning news. I'm Faith Daniels.
And I'm Forrest Sawyer. Enjoy your Monday.
This is CBS.
Look at that, it's official!
This music can mean just one thing. The Harlem Globetrotters are coming to Des Moines Monday, February 23rd. Don't miss your one chance this year to witness the madcap antics of the Harlem Globetrotters. Be at Betts Auditorium Monday, February 23rd, as this year's Globetrotters bring family fun to Des Moines. Tickets on sale at Betts and all other ticket access locations. To charge by phone.